right, so this is Joe with Behind the Flippers. So this is going to be our first episode, and we are with Joel Waldeck. Is that how you say it?
That's right, yeah.
All right, brother. So I've played pinball with you now for a little over a year.
Yep.
But one of the things I think what people don't get is we play pinball with you, but we don't know who Joel Waldeck is. So if you could give us a rundown, how did you get into pinball? Maybe what your favorite machine is.
Sure.
Some of the things that you really remember about pinball, maybe the best game you've ever had. But let's start at the beginning. So when did you start playing pinball?
Very young age. There's actually a picture of me at age, I want to say 2, and I'm playing a Playboy, an old Bally Playboy machine.
Nice. I know that game.
Yeah. Of course, my mom, once I started playing it, my mom was like, "Oh, we can't have that machine in our house," so my dad had to sell the Playboy. So I went a while without playing pinball, and then my dad has worked in the coin-op industry for decades, over 30 years, and he's been around pinball forever, and he works on them, he fixes them. He's probably the best in town. He just knows everything about pinball,
nice.
Fixing pinball machines. So they'd have, where he works, they'd have some machines in their showroom, so every once in a while I'd go and play them, But I never really got good at it. I was younger and I just couldn't quite figure out how to get better, and I just was like, I lost interest, And then as I got older, I started to get a little more interested in it, and I kind of started looking into it, and I was fascinated with how much strategy there is in playing pinball. I think that's what kind of really drew me in, was once I learned the different strategies, that made it a lot more interesting to me.
So with the strategy, do you think it is the competitive side of pinball that drew you, or was it that you were just trying to get to a certain point in the game?
Mostly just trying to, I get into a certain point in the game. I learned, for instance, the first time I watched a video tutorial was Addams Family. And he kind of showed just, the different shots, the different modes, and that was all stuff I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you were supposed to do this and this. And so then I was like, okay, I got to try that, and then I know it now, knowing the goals you're supposed to reach in a game and how you can get there, then I wanted to do that. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, I got to do this, So then that's when I started, I got to find this machine, I got to find that machine.
So you kind of got that pinball fever,
right,
you couldn't put it down, things
right.
like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I've played Addams Family myself a few times. It's a very, very difficult game.
Yeah.
So is there any games, would you say then, that really ring a bell with you? What's your favorite game?
My favorite machine is still Whitewater. I love Whitewater.
Okay.
It's just got cool sounds, cool music, cool shots. It's got this little upper playfield at the top, and you get that side ramp, and you got your jackpots, and the jackpot shots are really clutch because the ball. I don't know if you played Whitewater or not.
I think I've played it a couple of times. Not super familiar with it, but sure. That's the one with the boat in the center of it, right? And the ball's kind of locked in the middle there.
No, it's got what it is. It's got this little upper playfield up near the top, and it's you plunge the ball and you try to get it. So you don't want a hard plunge because it'll go all the way around. But if you do a light plunge, it'll go up on the upper playfield, and that's where your two of your main shots are. And you have your jackpot shots that ramp up there. And so for me, the fun part of that game is when you start your multi-ball, it's those 3 balls will come up near that upper playfield, and you want to try to hit each of those balls into that ramp for a jackpot. So if you hit the first one, it's a jackpot. You hit the second one too, then it's a double jackpot. If you can also hit the third one, then it's a triple jackpot. And that means all your jackpots, that entire multi-ball, are triple jackpots.
Nice.
So those shots are clutch shots. So if you can make those.
So once you get it going, you really just got to let it rip.
It's just something about that. When you start that multi-ball, there's so much excitement. Can I hit all 3? Can I hit all 3? Because if you hit all 3, you're going to have a good game. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So that's always draws me in trying to do that.
Do you own any pinballs yourself at your house?
I don't own any right now. I'd like to get one. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to get first. I almost kind of want to, I think it would be fun just to get an old electromechanical and just a little cheaper, and just play the heck out of that.
I remember I had gotten a electrical mechanical one. It was called Sky Jump. I had it for about 2 weeks before I realized I just hate dealing with the old switches and the relays and all that stuff. So it's kind of cool knowing you as much as I do. You know, maybe other people don't know, but it is kind of cool. I see you playing a lot of new modern machines. It's kind of neat that you're willing to bring on an older machine if you're going to buy one.
Right. Yeah. Anytime I play one of those older machines, I always have more fun than I think I'm going to have. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
It's just something about it. There's something about them. They're just more simple, and they're just. And the sounds, you know, those bell sounds and all that.
I really do like the sounds. The sounds are what drew me to get my first one, and then the maintenance side of it really is what got me to sell it quite a bit. But
sure.
You know, have you had any like just games that were just so good that you got done playing? You're like, I'm gonna remember this game for the rest of my life. Right. This is the best game I've ever played. So.
Right. A recent one happened a couple months ago. I was in Kansas City. Tyler was down there. You know Tyler Garrison, our state champion. We went down there we didn't plan on meeting each other down there. We ran into each other down there for a tournament in KC. And before the tournament, I was practicing, you know, and they had a Medieval Madness machine. And Tyler told me, he's like, that Medieval Madness plays really nasty. It's really hard. I'm like, oh boy. So I walk up. I got to the Final Wizard mode. Or no, did I? No, I can't remember. But I got really far, and I got a really high score. I put the grand champion score up there.
Nice.
So that just felt good. It wasn't a huge score, but just knowing that he just told me it was a very hard game, like machine to play, and I put up a good score on it.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's awesome. So we're talking about all the fun stuff of pinball. Let's talk about maybe a few things that aren't so fun. So what is a machine out there that you just absolutely cannot stand, Joel? Like, what is the machine that if you and I were playing pinball and I said, hey, I'm going to pick this machine, what's the worst machine out there I could pick that you just absolutely hate?
Worst machine? Oh, man. That's tough.
A machine that just always kicks your butt.
I feel like there are a couple of those. I do know that Tales of Arabian Nights at Beercade. I always have trouble with that.
That one's tough.
Really, I always feel like when I'm trying to catch the ball or whatever, it feels like it's slippery. It feels like I got butterfingers, you know. My foot, like the flippers are just. It's just, I don't know. That game just annoys me.
It's got that lamp right in the center that just keeps spinning and spinning. It's it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Yeah.
So would you have any recommendations for anyone that comes into pinball? I mean, like where would you steer somebody that maybe hasn't met you or been playing with the guys or anything like that, and they're thinking about getting into pinball? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would definitely come to our tournaments and try to watch some of the better players if you can, because that helps you, you know, see like what are they doing, like what's their strategy, and what are they doing to try to control the ball, catch the ball, this or that. And also, I mean, online with the internet, there's just so many tutorials. Papa does a lot of tutorials at Bo and Karen's. I don't know.
Yeah, I watch a lot of Papa tutorials.
He's done so many tutorials, and I know I've learned a lot from watching him and just seeing not just learning strategy from a particular machine, but just watching his flipper skills, you know, how he's catching the ball, how he's doing this or whatever. So that helped me. Like those tutorials really helped me kind of help set myself up to at least compete, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at least I knew. So if I went to a venue and they had whatever machine that I'd never heard of or I've never played, then I'd go, okay, I'm going to go online. I go online, find a tutorial for it, boom. You know, I'm
good
set.
Old YouTube, it's always there for us.
So it's huge, you know. That's a huge step, is knowing what you're supposed to shoot for. Because sometimes those games don't do a good job of telling you what to shoot for, you know what I mean? Like
a lot of new games are like that, right. You know. What's your take on new games and stuff? Because I know they're constantly changing game codes on us. They're constantly changing modes on us and stuff like that. And I know you play a lot of pinball, so what's your take on the new games?
Right. I think, you know, for the most part, I think they do a really good job with them. I know there are a lot of players who really just love those old classic 90s Williams Valley machines.
Yeah, myself. I really like them.
And they're great. And so a lot of those players maybe aren't able to as quickly embrace some of the newer machines, but I think they've done great with these newer machines. I love Iron Maiden back there. I love Iron Maiden. I thought that was one of Stern's better machines that they've made in a while. You know, and then you mentioned the code too, and I think that has been huge because, you know, they can improve a game, right? You know, I know a lot of people talk about Guardians and how at first it wasn't so great, and then they kept improving the code, and now it's just.
I actually own one of those myself, and I can agree with you 100%. Yeah. I had actually came to Big John's with a buddy of mine, and we were playing and stuff, and I played it, and I had so much fun with the interaction in the game that I actually went out and got one, which was kind of cool. But I couldn't agree with you more, Joel. Once they got the new game code and some of the new multi-balls and the wizard modes and things like that, you're absolutely right. It brought that game to life. So now that we've kind of talked about the beginning, you know, some advice that we give new guys, things like that. What do you, in your mind, Joel, what do you think the future of pinball is? Where do you think we can go with it, especially with the new technology, with LCD screens, being able to put the playfields deeper in the machine so we have more toys per se? Where, in your mind, Joel, where is the future of pinball headed?
I think it's kind of on this upward track. It seems like it's kind of gone on this upward track the last 10, 15 years. It's kind of made a comeback. And I think it's just going to keep going. I think it's going to keep getting more and more popular, especially with these barcades. People go to these barcades and they maybe haven't played pinball in 10, 15, 20 years, and they go like, oh, this is a lot of fun. And I think people they've kind of gotten reintroduced to pinball. You know what I mean? I think barcades have been huge, and that's helped. And I think that popularity will just continue to grow. And I think you're starting to see, because people forget, you know, like back in early 2000s, Stern was the only remaining pinball manufacturer.
That's right.
And now you've got Jersey Jack, you've got, you know, people who made that Big Lebowski machine, you've got the Houdini people, I can't remember their name, and then of course you got the Chicago Game.
I know somebody out there is going to quote me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's American Pinball.
American Pinball, that's right, yeah. And then of course you got Chicago Game, who's got the rights to the Williams machines, and they've re-released those. So they're just, you have, you know, we went from one manufacturer to having multiple manufacturers coming out with new machines all the time, and that just keeps people into it. You know, we're always excited about that new machine. And, you know, I think you know, these new machines are great. I think, you know, a lot of people, like I said, you know, a lot of people love those 90s machines, but these newer ones I think are just as good, and it's helped. I mean, having these great machines, continuing to release all these new machines has just been, I think it's been really good. And yeah, I mean, it's not much more to say really. It just, like I said, it just seems to keep, pinball just seems to keep going on this upward path. You know, our first year, our first state championship, we had Channel 7 show up, and then the second year we had Channel 7 again.
That's
and then
awesome.
This year we had Channel 7 and Omaha World Herald, and then of course Channel 6 just did its thing today. And so people are seeing this, you know, people are going to go watch the news and be like, hey, pinball, you know, and that's happening all over the country. Like,
that is
news
awesome.
Stations around, local news stations around the country are doing this, and people are seeing it. And I think that's really big. I think it brings more people, and it brings people back to pinball. You know, I hear a lot of people maybe in their, you know, 40s, 50s or whatever say, you know, yeah, when I was younger, we'd go play this or go play that, you know, and now those people are like, oh, I'm going to play pinball again. And now those are the kind of guys who are coming to our tournaments, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's great. And I think I can't really see a situation where pinball drops in popularity. It just seems to be going up and up and up.
I think what's cool is it's kind of a physical game, you know, where I think in the world of cell phones and electronic gaming and video games and stuff like that, it's nice to have a game or a sport that it's still a game, but yet it's still physical and stuff. It's really cool. So I have to agree with you on that for sure.
And I think that kind of physicality of it really brings people in. The fact that it's not on a screen. I mean, they have screens now, but you're not playing a video game on a screen. You know, you're not pushing buttons on a controller. You're watching a ball, an actual physical ball, moving around, hitting stuff, moving parts. You know, flippers flipping the ball. And I think there's something about that. There's something about physically seeing something rather than watching it on a screen. That's just way different. It's just way cooler, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what intrigued me. When I got my first pinball machine, I was a big arcade guy, you know, just loved the buttons and the joysticks and stuff like that.
Sure.
I remember when I was young and stuff, I played World Cup soccer, and I had the opportunity to actually get one of those in my life. And once I got that and I started playing, that's the love that I found for it. It was exactly what you were saying. I got that interaction where it's still a game, but yet it's still physical, and it was great.
Right.
So what is your favorite part of playing pinball as far as other players? Do you play pinball to get to certain modes? Do you play pinball to get to certain points? Do you play pinball to, do you love most about it that it's the competitive atmosphere where it's just head to head grinding out those last few points that you just have to get on the last ball, you know? What's your favorite part about playing pinball?
That's a good question. I think it would have to be that competition that, you know, playing, you know, a 4-player final, it's ball 3, you're player 4, you know what you got to score, it's just up to you to do it. I just had that situation. I failed, but when you succeed, it feels really good.
For
you know?
sure.
And that's always exciting. So I think that competition of it is probably the best thing about it. And that's why we have these tournaments, and then these tournaments keep getting more and more popular. And I think a lot of other people say the same thing. It's just fun playing against other people. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Joel. So we'll kind of wrap this up here. We learned a little bit about you. So I guess, you know, tell us that one thing about you, bud, that just people wouldn't really get, you know, that one little detail about you that people would just be like, wow, I didn't know Joel did this.
I don't. Yeah. Oh, well, it's not really a secret per se, but I didn't like tell the whole world, but it did happen. And I, you know, like I said, I didn't tell everybody, so I think there's some people who don't know about it. But I played against Kieth Elwin, the #1 player in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. It was at Expo.
Tell us about that, Joel.
Yeah. So it was at Expo, the Chicago Pinball Expo. It was 2016, I believe. And so I went there, and it was my first time at Expo, and I played in their tournament, and I qualified. I believe I qualified 22nd out of I think it was 100 or so. So it was not bad.
It's not bad at all.
And
especially when you got players that are on a world-class level.
Right. And turns out there were some players who decided just to not show up for qualifying but still play. So they got kind of pushed to the back of the bracket, and they had to fight all the way through, right? Well, one of those players ended up being Kieth Elwin. And they happened to pair me with him, my first match.
You had to have been nervous. You had to have been nervous. I mean, you're talking about the Kieth Elwin.
Right. It was really cool to do it, and the match was over pretty quick. I mean, he didn't annihilate me, but he beat me. You know, he beat me. He solidly beat me.
You can't be upset about that. You almost got to be happy that you lost to somebody like Kieth Elwin.
Right. It was cool. Yeah. It was really cool to play him. You know.
That's awesome.
And I kind of noticed was it didn't matter that was a first round against some nobody from Nebraska. He was in the zone. I mean, I tried talking to him, and he's like, you don't want me to talk. He was in the zone. But it makes sense. Those guys are competitive. Those guys are really good. And they want to win. So I mean, you know, but it's cool to see that. I mean, he was just you could tell. And same with the guy I played after that. It's just and it was cool seeing that. You know, I haven't been part of a ton of tournaments where people are locked in like that, but it's cool to see. You know?
So does he play fast and aggressive? Is it more controlled? Takes his times on his shots? Because I've watched you play pinball before. I've actually had the pleasure of playing against you myself.
Sure.
Maybe some others haven't, but I noticed a lot when I'm a very aggressive player, you know. I like to just get in there and just bang balls around and have a good time.
Sure.
But you seem to be a little bit more conservative on your shots.
Sure.
So do you think that Kieth Elwin is like that? Is he conservative?
You know, he's just it's hard to describe how he plays. I mean, he's controlled, you know, he plays controlled. He's definitely not chaotic, you know. All I know is it's fun watching him play. Just 'cause, I mean, he makes it look easy. Let's just put it that way. He makes it look easy, you know. And one thing I noticed too, and they talked about it on a broadcast. I was watching a broadcast one time of a tournament, he knows when a ball is going to drain on an out lane, and he knows when he can't save it. Like, he'll walk away before it even goes to the out lane because he knows he like has a good idea. Like, or no, he doesn't have a good idea. He knows, like, I can't save it. I'm just going to walk. Like, it's coming over here. He's like, I'm done. I know. And it's like, man, like the guys were like, don't you think you should try to save that? He's like, he knows he can't save it. And he's not going to.
He's that good.
I'm just amazed that he just know, like, yeah, it's very cool to watch guys like him play, you know.
Well, that's cool. So I know you play a lot of tournaments and stuff like that. I appreciate your time, Joel. I really do. I know it's important. I'm sure you're a very busy person, just like the rest of us.
Sure.
So this is Joe Stiles with Behind the Flippers, episode 1, and Joel Waldeck. Can't thank you enough, bud. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope others learn a little bit about you and stuff. I know I've learned a little bit just sitting here talking with you and playing a few games and stuff like that. And I look forward to the next game.
All right.
Thanks, Joel.